The ANC's National Executive Committee, NEC, has never been shy of heated arguments. The NEC has for years been the battleground where South Africa's governing party struggled with some of the nation's most contentious issues, ranging from economic policy to internal power battles. But what transpired at a high-pressure meeting this week left even veteran political players aghast. The attendance by Democratic Alliance Federal Chairperson Helen Zille at a closed-door meeting, a novel step taken to explore coalition structures, sparked flames that had soon become a political firestorm. And indications were that the traditional South African political rules may no longer hold. Caught in the eye of the hurricane was Mbalula, the ANC's blunting Secretary-General and the party's best-known firebrand. Synonymous with his bluster and unrepentant devotion to the ANC's legacy, Mbalula went toe-to-toe with Zille in a battle so acrimonious that insiders now refer to it as the moment that changed everything. South Africa's new political reality forged by coalition governments and tenuous alliances had brought to power leaders who used to exchange blows from opposite sides of parliament. The NEC meeting should have been a sober debate on how ANC and DA could work together to stabilize the municipalities and improve national government. But to some in the ANC, the mere presence of Zille across the table at Luthuli House was already incendiary. To them, she represented compromise, vulnerability, and even treason to ANC values. They saw her participation not as an olive branch toward unity but as an assault on the identity of the ANC. Mbalula, who has never been reticent about his contempt for the DA, was fidgety from the onset of the session. As Zille calmly outlined her vision for a coalition based on accountability and transparency, Mbalula interrupted, shaking his head with barely concealed frustration. According to insiders who witnessed the exchange, he could no longer contain himself. Leaning forward, his voice booming across the room, he reportedly declared, "Helen, don't come here and pretend to be the savior of South Africa. The DA has consistently defied transformation, consistently been opposed by the majority. Now you wish to school the ANC on governance? Never." Gasps were allegedly heard around the room as the NEC members digested the seriousness of the outburst. Some members of the NEC tried to placate him, but Mbalula continued, saying Zille was attempting to introduce DA policies through the back door in the guise of coalition agreements. It was not simply a personal attack, however, but an expression of the widespread mistrust that most ANC members have towards their political rivals. Zille, a veteran political warrior in her own right with decades of experience surfacing through the turmoil that has engulfed South Africa's politics, would not be intimidated. Locking eyes with Mbalula, she allegedly shot back with a crisp, firm voice, "You talk of transformation, but what has the ANC transformed over the past 3 decades other than enriching a few at the expense of millions? Don't speak to me of betrayal, Fel. The betrayal is what your party has perpetrated against common South Africans who remain poor while leaders bicker over who should rule." The room erupted. Some members of the ANC yelled in anger while others sat aghast at the brazenness of Zille's statement. For an instant, it was less of a political gathering and more like a street confrontation. Following this was chaos. Mbalula, flushed, pounded his fist on the table condemning Zille as white arrogance and political hypocrisy. His tone dripped with the anger of those in the ANC who perceived the DA as having consistently been a barrier to transformation. Zille, undaunted, pointed out the DA's electoral might to the ANC leadership and maintained that in the absence of collaboration South Africa risked collapse under ANC mismanagement. Her statement was a direct challenge to ANC hegemony, one that most in the room were not ready to listen to. NEC members had to step in. Some yelled at Zille to take respect for the ANC's house. Others implored Mbalula to remain calm. The exchange of angry verbal blasts lasted for quite a while, interrupting what was to be a meticulously planned negotiation regarding the fate of coalition politics in South Africa. One of the insiders later summed up the scene, "It was sheer chaos." The Secretary-General was furious. Zille was unrepentant, and the NEC split right down the middle. We all knew at that moment that things would never be the same again. The quotation not only captures the drama of the standoff, but also the underlying reality that South Africa's politics have entered new territory. When the meeting finally came to an end, the air had been thick with tension and fractured. President Cyril Ramaphosa, who had sat through the ordeal with a forced smile, was said to have left the room in silence, his silence being more eloquent than words. For some, his failure to intervene during the shouting match was a strategic move to prevent further entrenching the divisions within his party. For others, it was an ominous sign that the leader was afraid of facing up to the increasing complexities of coalition politics. For Mbalula, the exchange cemented his image as a passionate champion of ANC pride. In the party's ranks of grassroots supporters, his tirade was hailed as evidence that the ANC would not be browbeaten by opposition parties. But political analysts cautioned that his response may have also exposed a deficiency in diplomacy at a moment when negotiation and compromise are becoming the keys to governance in South Africa's hung councils and coalition-based future. To Zille, the encounter demonstrated her determination to stand on an equal footing with ANC bigwigs and not be cowed. Her success in standing firm in such a toxic setting has sealed her status as an important power broker in the nation's future politics. For the DA, her conduct could galvanize supporters who think that the party should be firm when it negotiates with the ANC. This was not merely another angry exchange. It was a watershed moment. For the first time, ANC leadership had to face eyeball to eyeball the queasy reality of doing business with its most seasoned and most bitter foe. Coalition politics is now no longer a speculative future reality. Instead, it is the new reality, and the two parties will have to learn to live together without annihilating one another or the tenuous municipalities they are both governing together. The Zille-Mbalula confrontation exposed the extent of distrust, the weakness of coalition negotiations, and the instability of South Africa's new politics. Analysts contend that it is unavoidable in a nation in which no party has the dominating majorities of yesteryear. But the virulence of the exchange has raised concerns that coalition governments may be brought down by personal animosities and past score settling. As one veteran NEC member later described, "We believed we could manage the tensions, but after what transpired in that room, we now know the reality." The ANC and DA sit at the same table, but remain worlds apart. His phrase highlights the stakes. The fate of coalition government will determine not just the near-term political outlook but the future of South African democracy itself.